here's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to peel back a little bit about the curtain. So remember how I kept talking about how I couldn't talk about things and I was excited for you guys to see stuff? It was all the content we shot. So, thank you, Shayon. Dude, it was all the content we shot, like the player intros. There's a bunch of stuff we shot too that you guys didn't get to see, and I don't know if you guys will get to see it, which is sad, but we'll talk about it. And then I'm gonna. Apparently, that got controversial. The player intros got a little controversial, so we're gonna talk about that during the ARC World Tour Finals recap. But tonight on the show, we're gonna discuss all of the updates we missed last week because I was in LA for. I was producing all of that cool stuff that you guys got to see over the ARC World Tour Finals. We're going to talk about the Tekken 8 updates. We're going to talk about the Street Fighter 6 updates. We finally got to see Geef. He's scary. We're going to recap the ARC World Tour Finals because that shit was awesome. And then we're going to do a block grab. The first block grab of the year with all of the player intros that we created. And I am a little biased, but I'm gonna let you guys decide on the block grabs because I made the thing. Anyway, we don't have a recap this week. We're just gonna recap the tournament, the ARC World Tour Finals tournament when we get there. A little update about my life. I'm exhausted. I got back into town on Monday at 10 p.m. Austin time, and walking through the airport, I think I was disassociating a little bit. It just felt like a dream. I was just walking around the airport and I wasn't sure what was happening. It was weird. As far as the show last week goes, here's why I don't think I did a good job with the show last week. And I want to emphasize that I think I was the problem, not necessarily the situation, right? Because they were nice enough to let me take a corner of the room. Some people kept giving me weird looks because they didn't know I was allowed to do what I was allowed to do, and I had to talk to a couple people. Honestly, the important people gave me the go-ahead, so it didn't matter at that point. Throughout the entire show, what you guys couldn't see was a giant cherry picker that was just off frame, kept inching closer and closer to me. Throughout the 35 minutes we were on air, because they were fixing something right above me. So I was like there were a couple times where I thought I was gonna get hit. There were a couple times I thought they were gonna hit something. So that was a little overwhelming. And then halfway through the show, as we were discussing our predictions, they started talking about the end of the show. Literally, it was we were like, oh, what are we going to see? Are we going to see a new character? Are we going to see a date? Blah, 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 blah. And then all I hear is the lead broadcast producer going, okay, so after the tournament, we're going to show the DNF slides about the new character. And I'm like, oh, God, I got to turn this off. So I had to sit there with the mic off forever because I was not about to let you guys get spoiled. But yeah, other than that, I had a blast just trolling around. I was also super exhausted because we had media day that day. So we spent all day shooting. So it was a little bit of a comedy of errors, but it was still fun nonetheless. It was a little bit of a clusterfuck. But it was fun. That's what it was. Oh yeah. They literally were like, yep, here's what's going to happen at the end of the show. And they started talking about the videos. So I couldn't let you guys hear that. And even if the microphone was good enough to not let that get picked up, I wasn't going to take that chance, I'm super grateful for Junior, who is the esports manager at Arc System Works, who gave me the go-ahead. I'm super grateful for Brett, my boss, Guru, who is the other boss, a bunch of other bosses who let me do this shit. It was pretty cool. So I didn't want to fuck that up, And I felt like that was the right decision, even though we just stood around for what felt like 10 minutes. But them's the breaks, That's what happens when we're where other people were not supposed to be. So, with that said, I thought that show was fun to do, even with all the shenanigans happening and even with my poor performance. And I do want to mention that it looks like our next show on location is going to be in April when we go to Texas Showdown. Nothing's set in stone yet. I'm in talks with Javi. So that looks like that's going to be our next on location show, which is going to be pretty exciting. We're going to go over to Houston, have a good old time. And there's also some other stuff that's happening in Houston for Texas Showdown that I'm not sure I can talk about, but when I know I can talk about it, I'll talk about it. No, I'm not in the production of that. We're not going to be able to do player intros and stuff. I think that was the big thing, right? I was in LA. I wanted to mention, you guys saw the props, right? The prop that Neubenheimer had. I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually show this. Can you guys see this? I cut my leg with that sword. That sword that Neubenheimer had was actually sharp. And we didn't know that, so like I unsheathed it from the blade, and it was sticky, right? Like there was a bunch of I think there was like some oil or something that had dried up inside the sheath. So I took it out, and like as I was wiping it down, I just like sliced my leg. I say slice. It basically like just like punctured the skin. It's fine. It's fine. Like nobody, like it's not an actual injury. But that was fun. Like some of the props that we got were so fucking cool, man. Oh, I got to give. So we made 2 props for Soul, right? We did the headband that you guys saw on Skill, and something that didn't come across in the videos is we also gave him a belt with free carved on it. I got to give that shit to Daisuke, and he just like flipped the shit. It was awesome. And I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to do that because as I like pulled our translator, right? Like the translator that was up on stage with him, not the Venom guy, but the other guy that was there in the beginning, the guy that spoke both Korean and Japanese. I pulled him. I was like, "Hey, I'm giving this to Daisuke," and he was like, "Okay." Like he already was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should do this," but I was just like, eh. I pulled the translator with me, and I was like, "Hey, I'm giving this to Daisuke-san," and he was like, "I don't know," but I was like, "I'm doing it." So I gave it to Daisuke-san, and Daisuke like flipped out when he saw it. He was like, "Oh!" He just started screaming, and then like he put it on, and it was like at the end of everything, so everybody was like in cloud 9, right? Because they had done it. Then I said like the one Japanese line I know how to say, which is my Japanese is shit. And I was focused on Daisuke-san, and I had like a giant box of props under my arm. And Daisuke was like, "Oh, it's okay." Then I started then it was like that awkward silence where I was like, I didn't know how to communicate anything else, and they didn't know how to communicate anything else. And then I looked to my left, and it was Otani, the I think it's like the director for DNF, the Arc System Works boss, CEO, and president, and like a couple of other like executives from Arc System Works just sitting around being like, "Oh, it's fine," but in Japanese. And I was just like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here, I don't think." So I was like, "Okay, thanks." It was very funny, but it was awesome. And I kind of did that on my own. So the other producer that worked on the show was a little bit miffed because he wanted the belt. But you know what? If we got to give it to Daisuke and he was happy, I think that's worth the brownie points. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was really weird because it was after all of the players were sitting around, right? Because they took pictures and stuff. Then I just wanted to go give it to him and like be like, "Thanks, I'm a big fan," and then leave. But then like all of the players had left, and it was just like the executives, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened here?" And it was so funny. And then I heard the ArcSys president saying, "We're in English, by the way, in like the Japanese broken English." He said, "We're going out and first round's on me." And I was like, sick. They're happy. So that was really cool. Junior from Arc System Works, he's the man. Got to meet him in person, and like throughout the whole weekend, like every time we saw each other, we were like, "Hey, what's up?" He was super duper happy with the show, which makes me immensely happy. Like he gave me a huge hug after he saw the player intros. So like, oh man, the fact that like I was able to help with that shit, like it feels good. It feels good. It feels good. It's validating. It's very validating. Even though, according to some people, that shit's controversial, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, that's a little bit about my trip. On the stuff we can talk about, I'll talk about like the actual shoots and everything a little bit more in depth once we get to it. The other nice thing was seeing Say Jam, Tasty Steve Ringe, and James Chen. Got to give them hugs and high fives and all that, so it was pretty cool seeing them. Saying hi to everybody. Trying to think of what else. I think I got one of those M. Rage jackets, not the one with Bikin or Eno on it, because like I kind of want to wear that places, so I don't want to like walk around with giant boobs on the back of my jacket, right? But I did get one of those M. Rage jackets, and I gotta tell you, man, I'm someone who's large, and like it doesn't quite fit me, but it does, right? Like it's a little bit small. Like my shoulders are getting broad because I'm working out. But it fits my body like real nice. But anytime I go like this, it feels like it's about to rip. But it's a really good, like it's a really comfy jacket, man. I'm a fan. I'm glad I got one of those.